Squares and square roots. A square root of a number is one of its two equal factors. If x squared equals y, then x is a square root of y. Okay, we know what squares are. Right? Squares are things that when been times by the same number, you get a number. So 1 times 1, the square of 1 times 1 is 1. The square of 2 times 2 is 4. So the square of 3 would be 9. The square of 4 would be 16. The square of 5 is 25, and so on. Okay, we know those. So when we talk square root, we're talking what number gives me that square. So the square root of 16 would be 4. The square root of 121 would be 11, because 11 times 11 gives me 121. All right, write this down. All right, a radical sign. This is the radical sign. Okay, they use it to indicate a positive square root. So the square root of 36 is 6, because 6 times 6 gives you 36. The negative square root of 36 is negative 6. And this isn't an underlying plus sign like someone asked last hour. It's plus or minus. This symbol means plus or minus. It could be both. The square root of 36 equals plus or minus 6. Now later on, especially when we get into algebra, they'll say, the square root of y squared is something. And you're like, well, it could be plus 6 or it could be negative 6. Because think about it. The square root of 36, right, is 6. We know that from here. But what else gives me 36 if you take itself times, if you times something by itself? 6 times 6 gives you 36. Negative 6 times negative 6 gives you 36, right? So that's why they're introducing this plus or minus sign to let you know that it could be positive 6 or it could be negative 6. Okay? Right? But they're only asked for it if they put it here. Next year they won't put this here. You have to know it goes here. The one other thing you need to notice is that a negative number has no real number square root, because the square of a number cannot be negative. You can't do the square root of negative 36. You can do negative square root of 36, but you can't do the square root of negative 36. Can anyone tell me why?
Because 2 negatives make a positive.
2 negatives make a positive, and 2 positives make a negative. Right? And to get a square, they have to be the exact same thing. So how could you get 2 negatives give you a negative? It's not possible, right? So there's no way you can find what the square root of negative 36 is, because negative 6 times negative 6 gives you positive 36. And 6 times 6 gives you 36. And those are the only two numbers that would give you 36. So you can't do negative 36 here. Okay? If you see this, if they ask for this square root, the answer here is no solution. Does everybody understand? No solution. All right, write this down. Find each square root. So square root of 9, okay, if you don't know, go through your squares. 1, 4, 9, 16. Oh, I know what 9 is. It's 3. Negative square root of 64. You know square root of 64 is 8, so the negative square root of 64 would be negative 8. If you see plus or minus, go ahead and write plus or minus and then figure out what square root of 4 is. It's 2. So there's your answer. Okay, now it's going to ask you to estimate. Let's say you don't have a calculator. Okay? And without a calculator, it's almost impossible to find square root. Okay? To find the exact square root. There's a long, big deal on how to do it, and it's really complicated. They're not going to teach it. You'll never learn how to find square root on a piece of paper and pencil, because it's unnecessary. So you're either going to have a calculator or you're going to be asked to estimate. Here's how you estimate. What you do is you think on the number line, okay, what squares would be around the square root of 33. So what squares would be around 33? Well, the first one I can think of is 25. The square of 25 is 5. The other one, the one on the opposite side of 33, would be 36, because what's the square root of 36? 6. So I've thought about my two squares that are close to 33, and it's 25 and 36. If you don't know, just go through your squares. 1, no. All right, 4, 9, 16, 25. Oh, 25 is close to 33. And then go to the other side of it. What's next? 36. There you go. What number is it closer to? Is this closer to square root of 25 or square root of 36?
36.
Square root of 36. So 33 would be closer to 36. So what's the nearest integer? 5 or 6? So there's your answer. All right, write this one. Negative square root of 121. So you have to think kind of backwards. You have to think negative numbers, right? But you have to think, what would be my squares around 129? So go through your squares. 10 is 100. 11's 121, so that's going to be one of them. So negative square root of 121 would be negative 11. Then go a number bigger than that number. The next one would be 12 at 144. So negative 144 gives you negative 12. Which one's this closer to? 121 or 144? 121. It's only 8 away. The other one's 13 away. So negative 129. So your answer is negative 11. Any questions how to do that? Alright, write this down. So it says use a calculator to estimate plus or minus square root of 40 to the nearest tenth. Now if you're using one of these blue calculators, okay, what you do is you type in the number first. So type in 40. And then you hit the radical sign. It's at the top middle red button. You hit the radical sign. Right? So what it gives you is plus or minus. You know you have to have plus or minus because it says plus or minus square root of 40. And it's 6.3245. Okay. Which it continues on, but I'm going to stop there. Right? And it says use that calculator to estimate to the nearest tenth. Which decimal place, which number is at the 10th decimal place? 3. The 3. So I round. Would I round up or would I stay at 3? Stay at 3. So my answer is plus or minus 6.3, and that's what you got to have. Okay. From square root of 14, you don't need any symbols. This is going to be positive, so 14, and then hit your radical sign. Now the scientific calculators, the graphing calculators, you actually hit the radical sign first and then hit the number. But on these, right, it gives you 3.74117. So would I round at 7 or would I stay at 7? Would I round up to 8 or stay at 7? I would stay because 3.74 with the 4. Do I round up or do I stay? With 4 you stay, so your answer is 3.7. All right. Any questions how to do that? Here's your assignment for today.